I guess I should start at the beginning. My name's Jake Callahan. I'm 25, and up until a few months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. A steady job at a mid-sized marketing firm in Ohio, a cozy little house on the edge of town, and most importantly, a beautiful wife, Emily, and our 5-year-old daughter, Sophie. If you asked anyone who knew us, they'd probably say we were the picture of happiness. And honestly, I believed it. At least, I wanted to believe it. We met back in college, Emily and I, and it was one of those whirlwind kind of things. She was a year ahead of me, studying education, and I was just this awkward kid trying to figure out what to do with my life. She had this way of lighting up a room, you know? Like, when she smiled, the whole world seemed a little less heavy. I fell hard. Fast. We married right after graduation. Emily got pregnant with Sophie about 6 months into our marriage, and sure, it wasn't exactly planned, but we were excited. Terrified, but excited. Sophie became our world. I still remember holding her for the first time, so small and fragile, and feeling like I'd do anything, to protect her. Life wasn't perfect, of course. We had our share of bills, sleepless nights, and arguments about silly things, whose turn it was to do the dishes, what color to paint the living room, whether Sophie should start ballet or soccer. But we always came back to each other. That's what I thought love was. And then came the tutor. It started innocently enough. Sophie was struggling a bit with reading. Nothing major, just a little behind where the other kids were in her class. Emily was worried. She always worried, and convinced me we should get her some extra help. I figured, hey, if it eases Emily's mind and helps Sophie, why not? So we hired Liam. He was young, maybe 28 or so. Friendly, polite, good with kids. The kind of guy you felt comfortable leaving your daughter with for an hour while you caught up on emails or cooked dinner. Emily found him through a parent group online. He came highly recommended. Apparently, he'd helped a lot of kids in the area. At first, I didn't think much of him. He was just the tutor. He came by twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, from 4 to 5 p.m. I'd usually still be at work, but Emily was home with Sophie during those sessions. I didn't question it. Why would I? Looking back, though, there were signs. Little things that didn't seem important at the time, but now, they haunt me. Like the way Emily's eyes would light up when she talked about Liam's teaching methods. How she started dressing up a bit more on tutoring days. Nothing over the top, just little touches. Lip gloss. A new blouse. Perfume I hadn't smelled on her in years. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I told myself I was being paranoid. Emily loved me. We had a family. People didn't throw that away over something so stupid. Or so I thought. One Thursday afternoon, I came home early. The office lost power in a storm, and my boss sent everyone home. I remember being excited. I figured I'd surprise Emily and Sophie, maybe take us out for pizza, have a little family night. When I pulled into the driveway, Liam's car was parked out front. Nothing unusual there. I walked up to the door, already picturing Sophie's face lighting up when she saw me. But then I heard it. Laughter. 2 voices. Not Sophie's. Not the kind of laughter that comes from helping a kid sound out letters or read a story. This was different. Intimate. Familiar. And then, as I put my hand on the door, it stopped. Like they knew. I stood there for a second, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't want to believe it. I told myself maybe they were just joking about something Sophie said. Maybe it was innocent. I opened the door. Emily was sitting on the couch, legs crossed, her face flushed like she'd just run a mile. Liam stood by the window, his hands stuffed in his pockets, looking anywhere but at me. Sophie was nowhere in sight. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Power's out at work. Figured I'd come home and surprise you guys." Emily blinked, then smiled, too wide, too fast. "Oh, that's nice. We were just finishing up." Liam mumbled something about having another appointment and grabbed his bag. He left so fast I barely had time to say goodbye. I watched him go, my mind racing. I turned back to Emily. "Where's Sophie?" "In her room, playing," she said, tucking her hair behind her ear the way she always did when she was nervous. I wanted to ask. I wanted to know. But I was scared of the answer. So I let it go. At least for that day. But the seed was planted. And it wouldn't stop growing. That night, after Sophie was tucked into bed and the house fell quiet, I couldn't shake the feeling in my chest, that heavy, gnawing weight. I lay beside Emily, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft sound of her breathing. I wanted to believe she was just tired. That the color in her cheeks, the nervous smile, the awkward silence when I walked in, they meant nothing. But once that seed of doubt is planted, it's like a weed. It creeps into every corner of your mind, tangling around your thoughts until you can't see anything else. The next morning, I got up early, made coffee, and tried to shake it off. I watched Emily move around the kitchen, making Sophie's lunch. She kissed Sophie's head, laughed at some joke our daughter made, and for a moment, everything felt normal again. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was being paranoid. But then Emily's phone buzzed on the counter. And I saw it, Liam's name on the screen. My heart stopped. Emily glanced at the phone, then at me. She hesitated, just for a second, before picking it up and turning her back to me. "Hey," she said, voice low. "Yeah, I can talk." "Just a second." She walked out of the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, disappearing down the hall. I stood there, staring at the spot where she'd been. My coffee went cold in my hands. When she came back, she acted like nothing had happened. But I couldn't. Not anymore. That evening, after Sophie was asleep, I tried to bring it up. "Emily," I started, keeping my voice steady, "is everything okay between us?" She looked at me, surprised. "Of course. Why? Where's this coming from?" "I don't know," I lied. "You just seem distant. And I noticed you've been talking to Liam outside of tutoring." Her face changed, just for a second. A flicker of guilt? Fear? I couldn't tell. "He was just asking about Sophie's progress," she said quickly. "You're reading too much into it." Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't. But that night, I didn't sleep. The next week, I started noticing more. The way she'd check her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. The way Liam's name seemed to pop up more often. How Sophie mentioned that Liam stayed for dinner once, when I had to work late. I didn't remember agreeing to that. And then came the twist I didn't see coming. It was a Saturday morning. Sophie had a birthday party to go to, and Emily offered to take her. I said I'd stay home and catch up on chores. After they left, I grabbed the laundry basket from our room and knocked her purse over by accident. Her phone spilled out, along with a folded piece of paper. I don't know why I picked it up. I didn't want to be that guy, snooping through his wife's things. But something made me do it. It was a receipt. From a hotel. Dated 2 weeks ago. The same day I'd had to stay late at work for a last-minute client meeting. I stood there, staring at it, my hands shaking. When they came home later, I tried to act normal. I didn't want to confront her in front of Sophie. But inside, I was falling apart. That night, I sat in the dark, thinking about everything. The laughter I heard that day. The phone calls. The hotel receipt. It all started fitting together in a way I didn't want it to. But here's where the twist comes in. I decided to talk to Liam. Not Emily. Liam. I found his number on Emily's phone, waited until she was busy with Sophie, and called him. He answered on the second ring. "Hello? Liam? It's Jake, Emily's husband." There was a long pause. "Oh. Hi. Is everything okay?" I took a breath. "I don't know. That's kind of why I'm calling. Can we meet? Just talk?" He agreed. We set a time for the next day. A coffee shop downtown. Neutral ground. When I hung up, I felt a strange mix of dread and relief. Like at least I was doing something. Like maybe I'd finally get some answers. And the next day? That meeting with Liam changed everything I thought I knew. The next morning felt like walking through fog. I went through the motions, got Sophie dressed, kissed her goodbye, watched Emily load her into the car like nothing was wrong. Like we were still the same family I believed in. But everything felt different now. By noon, I was parked outside the coffee shop, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. I could see Liam through the window, already inside, sitting at a corner table, fiddling with his phone. He looked nervous. Good. I hoped he was. I walked in, heart pounding, and sat across from him. "Jake," he said, trying to smile. "Thanks for meeting me." "Yeah," I said, my voice tight. "Let's just get to it." He looked down at the table, then back up at me. "I think I know why you're here. Do you?" I asked, my anger bubbling just under the surface. "You've been seeing my wife. Behind my back." His eyes widened. "What?" "No. Jake, no. It's not what you think." I stared at him, waiting for the lies. But what he said next threw me off completely. "Emily's been meeting me, yeah? But not like that. She asked me for help. With something personal. Something she didn't want you to know." I frowned. "What does that mean?" "I saw the hotel receipt, Liam. I heard the way you two laughed together. You expect me to believe this is all innocent?" He leaned forward, his voice low, urgent. "Look, I don't know what you saw or heard. But I swear, I'm not having an affair with Emily. She came to me a few weeks ago because she's been struggling. I don't know how to say it. She's been seeing a counselor. She didn't want you to worry." "A counselor?" I repeated, stunned. "She didn't want you to see her like that. Vulnerable. She thought if you knew how much she was hurting, you'd see her differently. She asked me to cover for her. Said it was easier if you thought she was talking to me about Sophie." I shook my head, trying to process this. "Why would she meet you at a hotel? It was a conference center. That's where the support group meets. Once a month." I sat back, the weight of his words sinking in. "Why didn't she tell me?" He sighed. "Because she loves you. And she's scared. Scared you'd think she's weak. That she's failing as a mom, as a wife. That's what she told me, anyway." For the first time in weeks, my anger cracked. And underneath, it was confusion. Sadness. Guilt. "Why didn't you just tell me this sooner?" I asked, my voice softer now. "Because she begged me not to. She thought she could handle it. I swear, Jake, there's nothing going on between us. I'd never do that to you. To Sophie." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But part of me still doubted. "You expect me to just take your word for it?" "No," he said quietly. "I don't. That's why I brought this." He pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket and slid it across the table. I opened it. It was a flyer. A support group for young mothers dealing with postpartum depression and anxiety. I stared at it, my throat tight. "I don't know what else to say," Liam said. "But if you love her, talk to her. Not me." I left the coffee shop feeling like the ground had shifted beneath me. Everything I thought I knew, every certainty, was tangled in knots. I drove around for a while, not ready to go home, not sure what to say when I did. And when I finally walked through that door, Emily was waiting. And the look on her face told me she knew. She knew I knew. When I walked into the house that evening, the air felt heavy, like the storm that had been building between us was finally ready to break. Emily was sitting at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. I didn't say anything at first. Just stood there, watching her, trying to figure out where to begin. Finally, she spoke. "You met with him, didn't you?" I nodded. "Yeah." She let out a shaky breath, like she'd been holding it for days. "I didn't want it to happen like this." I pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "Then how did you want it to happen, Emily? Were you ever going to tell me?" Her eyes filled with tears again. "I don't know. I kept thinking I'd find the right time, but it never felt right. And the longer I waited, the harder it got. I thought you were cheating on me." My voice cracked as I said it. "Do you have any idea what that's felt like? These past few weeks? Watching you pull away from me, seeing you with Liam. I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. "Then why couldn't you just tell me?" I asked, my voice rising despite myself. "I'm your husband, Emily. We're supposed to be a team." She wiped at her eyes, looking so small, so fragile, and I hated that I was the reason she looked that way. "Because I was ashamed. Because I didn't want you to see me like this. I didn't want to admit that I wasn't okay, that I couldn't handle everything." I sat back, the anger draining out of me, leaving only exhaustion. "Emily, I'm not perfect. I never expected you to be either. I thought if I could just get through it on my own, it would go away," she said, her voice breaking. "But it didn't. And the more I tried to hide it, the worse it got. Liam offered to help, to cover for me so I could go to meetings, so I could talk to someone. I never wanted you to find out this way." There was a long silence between us, filled only by the sound of the refrigerator humming. Finally, I spoke. "You could have just told me. I would have helped you. I wanted to help you." "I know," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But I didn't want to be a burden. You already do so much. I thought if I could just fix myself." "Emily," I interrupted gently, "you're not a burden. You're my wife." Her tears started falling faster then, and I reached across the table, taking her hand in mine. She gripped it like a lifeline. "I'm so sorry, Jake," she said. "For everything. For making you doubt me. For making you feel like you weren't enough. You've always been enough. It's me who felt like I wasn't." I squeezed her hand. "We'll get through this. But no more secrets. Please." She nodded, and for the first time in weeks, I saw a glimmer of the woman I fell in love with, the one who believed in us, who believed in me. That night, we stayed up late talking. Really talking. About the sleepless nights she'd had, the anxiety that wouldn't let her rest, the guilt she felt for needing help. And I told her about my fears, my doubts, the way I'd been drowning in suspicion and hurt. It wasn't easy. Nothing about it was. But it was real. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. But just when I thought we'd found solid ground again, life threw us another curveball. Because the next day, I got a call from Liam. And what he told me made everything more complicated. I thought we were on our way to healing. After that long, tearful night at the kitchen table, I felt like Emily and I had taken our first real step back toward each other. There was still pain between us, sure, but at least the walls were down. At least we were talking. And then my phone rang. It was the middle of the afternoon. Emily had taken Sophie to the park, and I was home alone, trying to catch up on some work emails I'd been neglecting. I almost didn't answer when I saw Liam's name on the screen. A part of me wanted to leave it, to let that chapter be closed. But curiosity, and maybe a need for closure, won out. "Hey, Liam," I said, trying to sound calm. "What's up?" His voice on the other end was tense, anxious. "Jake, I wasn't sure if I should call. But after we talked, after seeing you two together, I couldn't keep it to myself." I felt my stomach tighten. "What do you mean?" He hesitated. "I wasn't completely honest with you. Not because I wanted to lie. I just didn't know how to say it without making things worse." I gripped the phone tighter. "Liam, just tell me." He took a deep breath. "There was someone else. At the support group. Someone Emily's been confiding in. A guy. And I think there's more between them than just shared stories and advice." For a moment, I couldn't speak. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. "What are you talking about?" "I didn't want to believe it either," Liam said quickly. "But I've seen how they look at each other. The way she lights up when he's around. The way he finds excuses to sit next to her, to walk her out to her car. I thought it was innocent at first, but I'm not so sure anymore." My heart pounded in my chest. "Who is he?" "His name's John. He's older, mid-30s maybe. Divorced. His ex-wife left him after their son was born. He's been through a lot. And I think they connected over that. Over their pain." I ran a hand through my hair, trying to process what Liam was telling me. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I saw how much you care about her," Liam said. "And because I don't want you to get blindsided again. I'm not saying she's done anything wrong, but I think you need to know before things go further." I thanked him, though the words tasted bitter, and hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at nothing, my mind racing. Could Emily really be falling for someone else? After everything we'd just been through? After everything she said last night? When she came home later, her face flushed from the sun, Sophie chattering excitedly about the swings, I felt like I was looking at a stranger. I wanted to ask. I wanted to know. But the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I watched. I listened. And over the next few days, I started to see what Liam meant. The way Emily smiled at texts she wouldn't show me. The way she seemed distracted, far away, even as we tried to mend the cracks between us. I knew I couldn't ignore it. Not again. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I went to the support group. I didn't tell Emily. I just showed up one evening, sat quietly in the back, and waited. And when I saw her walk in, saw the man who followed a few steps behind, the way his eyes softened when they met hers, I knew. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Sitting there in the back of that meeting room, I felt like an outsider looking in on someone else's life. The folding chairs, the stale smell of coffee and old carpet, the low murmur of voices, it all felt surreal. And then I saw Emily walk in. She didn't see me. She was focused on someone else. John. He was about my age, maybe a few years older. His hair was starting to gray at the temples, but it suited him. He had that look, worn down but kind. The kind of face that made you want to trust him. And as he fell into step beside Emily, I saw it, the ease between them, like they'd known each other forever. Like they'd built something in the shadows of what Emily and I were trying to rebuild. They sat together, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. I couldn't hear what they whispered to each other before the meeting started, but I didn't need to. It was written all over their faces. Afterward, I stayed in my seat, watching as people drifted out. Emily and John lingered by the door, talking softly. He made her laugh. That laugh, the one I hadn't heard in so long, at least not when she was with me. I waited until she left, then stood, my heart hammering in my chest. I should have gone home. Should have let it go. But something in me needed to look this man in the eye. Needed to see for myself what I was up against. I caught him in the parking lot, just as he was unlocking his car. "John?" He turned, surprised. "Yeah, I'm Emily's husband." His face changed, surprise first, then caution. He didn't look guilty. He didn't look defensive. Just sad. Like he'd been expecting this. "I figured we'd meet sooner or later," he said quietly. "I want to know the truth," I said, my voice shaking with everything I was trying to hold back. Is there something going on between you and my wife?" He shook his head slowly. "No, not the way you're thinking." "Then what is it?" I demanded. "Because I see the way you look at her, and I see the way she looks at you." He sighed, leaning against his car. "I care about her. That's true. She's been a friend when I didn't have many. We've both been through things that are hard to talk about with people who don't understand. And I think maybe we leaned on each other a little more than we should have. But there's no affair. No betrayal. Not like that." I stared at him, trying to decide if I believed him. "Do you love her?" The question hung in the air between us, heavy and sharp. He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was low. "I care about her. But I know she loves you. And that's why I've been trying to pull back. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I never wanted to come between you." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to punch him. Part of me wanted to thank him for being honest. And most of me just felt tired. So tired. I left without another word, driving home in silence. When I walked in the door, Emily was on the couch, reading to Sophie. She looked up, saw something in my face, and set the book down. "Jake?" she said, concerned. "What's wrong?" And I realized then, I had a choice. I could confront her. I could demand answers. Or I could choose a different path. One that didn't tear us apart, but maybe, just maybe, brought us closer. I sat down beside her, took her hand, and for the first time in a long time, I said the words I'd been holding back. "I'm scared, Em. I'm scared I'm losing you." Her eyes filled with tears, and she whispered, "You're not. I promise. I just didn't know how to let you in." That night, we started the hardest, most honest conversation of our lives. And it wasn't about John. It wasn't even about the support group. It was about us. About the pieces of ourselves we'd both been hiding. The fears, the failures, the hopes we were too afraid to speak. But that didn't mean the road ahead was easy. Because just when I thought we were finally on the same page, life threw one last twist our way. The night Emily and I finally talked, really talked, felt like a turning point. We stayed up until dawn, laying bare all the things we kept inside. The guilt, the fear, the loneliness that had crept into our marriage when we weren't looking. And for a while, it felt like that honesty was enough. Like maybe, just maybe, we could patch the cracks and move forward. But healing isn't always a straight line. Sometimes, it takes you places you don't expect. A few weeks later, Emily sat me down again. I could tell from the look on her face that this wasn't going to be easy. "Jake," she began, her voice trembling, "I've been thinking a lot. About us. About everything that's happened." I braced myself. "I love you. I always will," she said. "But I need time. Time to figure out who I am without hiding behind being your wife or Sophie's mom or anyone else's anything. I've spent so long trying to be okay for everyone else. I don't even know what okay means for me anymore." I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I need space. Not forever. But for now. I need to go stay with my sister for a while. I need to focus on getting better. For myself. Part of me wanted to beg her to stay, to promise we could work through it together. But deep down, I knew she was right. We'd spent so long trying to fix the surface that we hadn't tended to what was broken underneath. So I let her go. We explained it gently to Sophie, told her mommy was going to visit Aunt Rachel for a little while, and that she'd be back soon. Sophie took it better than I expected. Maybe kids sense these things more than we give them credit for. In the month that followed, Emily and I stayed in touch. We co-parented. We talked. Sometimes we fought. Sometimes we laughed like we used to. Slowly, we started to rebuild trust. Not as husband and wife at first, but as two people who still cared about each other and wanted the best for their daughter. As for John, he faded out of the picture. Maybe he realized, like we did, that what Emily and I needed wasn't a third person to lean on. It was ourselves. It was honesty. It was time. A year later, Emily came home. Not because everything was magically fixed, but because we'd both done the work, separately and together. Because we'd learned that love isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about standing beside each other, even when things are messy and hard. Our story didn't end the way I thought it would when I first saw that hotel receipt. But maybe it ended the way it was meant to, with two imperfect people choosing each other again. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to.